What's going on, fight fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys. Gonna be giving my breakdown and predictions of what I believe is going to be going down on the UFC Paris card. I am taking a very big risk with this one because this fight card is about 2 weeks away as of right now. Normally there's a little bit of drop offs. There's people that are, going to be taking off the card, missing weight, and are just going to be out because of injury and whatnot. Hopefully none of those things happen and I don't have to make another video for this card. But anyways, to start off this card, we have Shauna Bannon versus Sam Hughes. Shauna Bannon is on a 2-fight win streak. Both of these gals are actually on a 2-fight win streak. Last time out in a crazy affair that she was in against Pooja Tomar, where she was completely dominating her until she got head kicked right in the head and damn near got put out, and somehow won that fight just off toughness and grit by getting an armbar finish over Pooja Tomar. And Sam Hughes is a UFC vet that's been in the UFC for quite some time. She's on a 2-fight win streak as well, like I said earlier. But both of those wins that she has been by split decision over Victoria Dudukova and Stephanie Luciano. Right now, Shauna Bannon, the only person that she's ever lost so far in her career was against Bruno Brazil. And I don't think Sam Hughes is up to that level of Bruno Brazil. While she is a vet, she's been in there, she has a lot of experience and IQ. I think it's a good litmus test for both of these women because, again, they're both on a win streak as of right now. Whoever wins as of right now, whether it be the younger prospect in Shauna Bannon or the older vet as in Sam Hughes, they can be able to push up a little bit more for another higher ranked type position for themselves to be able to get into the rankings or a high valuable spot to get in a bigger spot and matchup for themselves. I'm going to go with Shauna Bannon in this one. I think that overall she's a more complete fighter than Sam Hughes. And while their level of competition hasn't been the greatest in terms of who they've won, Shauna Bannon has won more in fashion and more dominantly than what Sam Hughes has been doing so far. So I'm going to go with her on this one, probably by decision, or maybe if another crazy affair pops off with this one, maybe she gets a knockout in this one. And now moving on up the card, we got another UFC vet versus a UFC newbie, as we want to be able to say. Brad Tavares versus Robert Brycecheck. Brad Tavares is coming off a decision win over GM3. Two old heads just duking it out. Brett Tavares has been in the UFC for like damn near 15 years already or something like that. Crazy. He's been all over the place, dude. He's really been up and down with his career. Robert Brycecheck, he lost in his UFC debut to Ihor Pretoria. Right, Ihor Pretoria, the same Ihor Pretoria that is out of the UFC as of right now, got cut, and in every single fight that he's had besides Robert Brycecheck, I believe that he's lost and by KO. This should be a layup for Brad Tavares. Overall, while he's not super complete on the feet, I do think that he's an overall better fighter, has a more experience in this one as well. I think that's going to be going into his favor. And I don't believe in Ryan Brycecheck. You lost to Ihor Pretoria, bro. I'm going with Brad Tavares. And now moving on up the card, we got Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. Sam Patterson is on a 3-fight win streak, all by finish since his UFC debut, which was a loss against Yanaz Muz, where he got KO'd in that one. His last win over Danny Barlow, I believe he won by armbar. Trey Waters is 2-0 in the UFC. Both of his wins have been coming by decision, and his last win came over Billy Ray Goff. I'm going to go with Sam Patterson on this one. He's been looking like he's just streaking right now. Every single fight that he's been in, he's looking for the finish, whether it be on the feet, whether it be on the ground. He's a threat on both sides of that type of hill. I think Trey Waters, where he is, pretty good comp, and he can be able to get wins over lower level competition. I don't think that he's at the level as of right now as Sam Patterson is, who is a prospect who needs a little bit more of experience in his career, but just the mindsets of these two fighters, I'm going with Sam Patterson. And moving now up the card, we got William Gomez versus Rubert Rashala, or just a black figure, or maybe another, doppelganger of William Gomez, if you want to be able to say. William Gomez is coming off his first career UFC loss, and his loss in quite some time that he's had in a fight that was very close, split decision, could have went either way, versus Haider Ramil, the absolute zombie that he is. And Robert Rashala, making his UFC debut, was a champion in KSW, a higher level European type of competition company that they have over there and I think Poland. I'm going to go with William Gomez on this one. I think not that they're serving him up a layup, but I do think that with having a UFC debut in a Paris card with a Frenchman like William Gomez, who is a shrewd operator on the feet, I think he's a sharpshooter in there, and you need to be able to have that type of style like a Hyder Emil or carry some type of power and ammunition in your hands to be able to put him out. But he went against Joe Anderson Brito, and Brito wasn't able to put him out. Damn near did on a few occasions, but he wasn't able to get the job done. William Gomez is really, really hard to be able to nail down. Pause. So I'm going to go William Gomez on this one. I just think overall this is going to be a nice bounce back, especially for him in Paris in that crowd, him as a countryman, to get the dub. And moving on up the card, we got the absolute robbery merchant himself, Renat Fekirtinov versus Andreas Gustafsson. First off, before I get into in depth between these guys in their recent career so far, Andreas Gustafsson is the type of guy to be able to break, I think, a Renat Fekirtinov, if I'm being quite honest. Fekirtinov is undefeated in the UFC, though, but he's coming off those back-to-back controversial wins, quote-unquote wins, that you want to be able to say, over Nicholas Dalby by split decision, and Carlos Leal, who they gave a unanimous decision to Renat Fekirtinov, where he absolutely lost that one 100%. That's not even without the question. Andres Gustafsson, he absolutely drowned Chaos Williams in his UFC debut and made Chaos Williams look like an absolute fool out there, especially with the grappling, just over and over, just making Chaos Williams look like a fish out of water. Really, just flopping all over the place, not having an answer whatsoever, whether it be in the clinch, on the feet, or on the ground. Renat Fekirtinov is a step in terms of skill above a Chaos Williams. I think he has an answer in terms of his takedown defense and his grappling, but that overall pace that Andres Gustafsson has, I mean, he's just an absolute like zombie, bro. He just comes forward and doesn't give a damn about what's coming his way. Coming in with that Nordic Viking mentality of just wanting to be killed or just getting in there and pillaging your pillage. I mean, this one's a tough one. This one's a tough one because if it goes to a decision, 100% Renat the Rat is going to be getting that decision. But Andres Gustafsson, he has a chance to be able to get a finish. Maybe if he's just so damn dominant in that second and third round where he just continuously puts on a pace against Renat Fekirtinov, he could be able to get it done. But Andreas Gustafsson, in terms of his skill on the feet, isn't like the greatest, but it's there. The power is also there as well, so you have to be able to worry about that. I'm going to go Renat Fekirtinov. He's just a more secure type of choice to be able to get a win in this type of situation. But 100% as an underdog, I am definitely looking at Andres Gustafsson to be able to somehow, some way, if he can, be able to pull off a finish. I actually do favor him to be able to get it done. But I'm going to go Renat Fekirtinov. And now moving on up the card, we got Marcin Tybura. The heavyweight prospect killer himself is on an absolute tear in terms of killing those prospects. On a 2-fight win streak as of right now over Jonathan Deniz and Mick Parkin. Really just trying to be able to solidify himself in terms of his ranking and his status so far in the heavyweight division, of him not being really the best of the best, but he is the best of the best of the tubby men, the fat obese men that are in the heavyweight division. He is the best of the best in terms of then. And he's going against Ante Delija, making his UFC debut. He's been in a lot of promotions beforehand, such as Ryzen, KSW, as I mentioned before. He's been a mainstay in the PFL for quite some time. He's been a champion, but he's never been in terms of that higher terms of competition like in the UFC, even though the heavyweight division is absolutely trash. I'm going to go Marcin Tybura. Tybura has been there, done that. He's already been killing all these prospects, all these younger dudes' dreams to be able to really, push higher into the rankings and potentially be that heavyweight champion that they want to be so desperately, even though they need to be able to cut maybe 50 to 60 pounds of their weight if they want to be actually very serious on their off season. I'm going to go on Marcin Tybura. I don't think that he loses to a guy like Ante Delija, even though Ante is okay. He's pretty good. He could be in the rankings, but I don't think, especially right now, against a guy like Marcin Tybura, who is streaking. He is streaking right now, but he's also streaky as well as being inconsistent. There's times where he can be able to be a pushover. He can get knocked out. He can be pushed over a little bit. He's not the biggest of the biggest heavyweights, but I'm going to go with Tybura in this one. And now moving on up the card, we got Umar Sy potentially and hopefully redeeming himself after having one of the most timid performances I've ever seen in my entire life in his first career UFC loss against Alonzo Menifield, where he was very, very scared to be able to get in any type of exchanges because he was so damn worried about the power coming his way going against a guy like Alonzo Menifield. He is now matched up against Brendanson Ribeiro, and Brendanson Ribeiro is coming off a KO loss against Azat Murzakanov. I'm going to go with Umar Sy on this one. He's going to be in front of his country in Paris. He's going to want to show out. He's going to want to bounce back off of his first loss and a terrible performance that he had against Alonzo Menifield. All the momentum, I think, is going to be swinging towards his way, especially early, and I think he has the technique and style and the size advantage in terms of all those things as well is going to be on Umar Sy's side, and I think he gets his job done pretty easily over Brendanson Ribeiro. And now moving on up the card to Tapology, who unfortunately on the UFC website didn't have this published on their website, so I had to be able to take this off of Tapology. But I do think that this fight is still on this card. I do not think it's going to be rebooked on another one. It is Patricio Pitbull versus Loensi Keita. I'm really hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Pitbull is making a quick return after getting his first UFC win over Dan Ige, where he pretty much just did the bare minimum against Dan Ige in the first 2 rounds and essentially won a pretty easy 29-28 decision. And Loensi Keita has dominated the regional scene. He's now making his UFC debut. He's been a champion in the promotions that he's been in beforehand. He has one loss on his resume, but the only time he has actually lost, if you want to give him a loss on his resume, is a foot injury that he suffered. So he hasn't really been KO'd, lost a decision. He's a really highly touted prospect, being on the main card from Belgium, in that area of Europe where they also speak French besides being in France. This one is a great matchup. I'm going to go with Patricio Pitbull on this one. I think that the experience advantage is going to be headed toward his way. He didn't take a lot of damage in that fight against Danny Gay in that third round. He got a little chippy, but it wasn't so much up to say like, oh my God, I'm getting dominated right now against Danny Gay. While Loensi Keita, I can be able to see him to be able to get into rankings, and I can see him actually winning this fight as well. I don't know if he's ready for that step up, where Pitbull is not the greatest. Honestly, if we're being very honest with ourselves, he's not the greatest, but he is ranked. He has power in his hands. You need to be able to worry about what he has. While he's not great and not good at everything, he is very mid at everything above. So if there is advantages for him to be able to take over, it is his experience. It is the IQ. He is not going to be the younger man and not the hungrier man, in my honest opinion. But he knows how to win fights in terms of this stage of his career and needs to be able to push a lot harder than what Loensi Keita has. And Keita has a lot of time to be able to build on his career. And now moving on up to the card, we got Fares Ziam. Somehow, someway, still has not got a ranked opponent yet. For some reason, these guys are ducking him in the lightweight division, but he has a pretty good matchup in front of him, that being Kai Fernandez. Fares Ziam is on a 5-5 win streak, man, against names like Jai Herbert, Matt Favola, last time out against Mike Davis. They're all really good unranked names that he could be able to really push himself to the stratosphere if there were a guy that the UFC really wanted to be able to promote and would have got a big jump up into the rankings if he fought a guy like Michael Chandler, who's on his way out, or another low-ranking lightweight as of right now that can be having some issues in that division. Kai Fernandez himself is on a 2-fight win streak. He absolutely dominated, destroyed Guram Kutateladze on the feet. This one I think is going to be very close and competitive. I do think that Fares Ziam does have the advantage in terms of the striking game, but Kai Fernandez is no slouch. His low kicks are tremendous. His hands are pretty competent. But I just think that Fares Ziam just has that one touch above Kai Fernandez in terms of talent and skill. While I do think that it will be an odd affair that will be very fiery and very technical, I am going to go with the man that is streaking very hotly right now. And hopefully, after this one against a guy like Kai Fernandez, he can be actually getting his name and throwing his hat into the ring and towards the rankings. And now moving on up the card, we got a layup for Modestas Bukauskas, who's on a 3-fight win streak. Last time out, he won a split decision over Jan Cutelaba, where I thought that Jan Cutelaba got robbed in that one. That's neither here nor there. And Paul Craig was on a 3-fight losing streak beforehand, before his no contest against Rodolfo Bellato. And the competition that Paul Craig was facing is a lot better than a guy like Modestas Bukauskas. But Paul Craig, seeing him winning fights as of right now, in the near future, or just in this one, is just an oddity. It's a rarity. I just don't see it happening. Modestas Bukauskas, I think, has a complete advantage on the feet against Paul Craig, where I think he's just going to absolutely ramrod right through him and just make Paul Craig look like an absolute bitch that he is on the feet. I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas on this one, and I think he makes it look very, very easy. I think it's time for Paul Craig to be thinking about retirement or just sticking to the grappling competitions, because in terms of MMA and him actually having any other type of game on the feet besides just a body kick, it's very redundant, and there's nothing else that he can honestly be able to do. And now moving on up the card, we got a fight that a lot of people are going to be saying, why is this the future fight? Why are these two new names are going to be on my card televised as a future fight on this UFC Paris card? Why they didn't put Fares Ziam or William Gomez or potentially the Pitbull fight as a feature fight on this card? Listen, Balaji Oki versus Mason Jones is going to be an absolute banger. And trust me, I know bangers. Balaji Oki is coming off his decision win over Micah Maswell last time out in his career. That one was an absolute war between those two on the feet, where Balaji Oki was just doing just enough throughout the rounds to be able to put it over Michael Maswell. Mason Jones, he defeated Jeremy Stevens. Old man Jeremy Stevens somehow is still fighting in the UFC. Crazy enough to be able to say that. But in his return to the UFC, Mason Jones really did the job over Jeremy Stevens, mixing in the grappling and really just dominating him on the feet, even though Jeremy Stevens did have his moments every now and then on the feet. I'm going to go with Mason Jones on this one. Having that win over David Onama, I do think does bring a precedence for him in his career, as well as having that win over Jeremy Stevens, where he's not in his prime, but he's definitely a household name in terms of UFC and MMA fans in general. And as well as just fight fans as well, just him being in BKFC and just doing the things that he's been doing over there is absolutely insane. But Mason Jones, I think just overall, in terms of mixing in the grappling and the wrestling and on the feet, I just think he's a lot more complete than Balaji Oki, where Oki is very versatile and has some power in his hands on the feet and can be able to be very tricky. And I do think that these guys are going to be going to an absolute barn burner between each other, because that's just the style that these two guys have, especially after the last recent outings that they had within each other as well. I'm going to go with Mason Jones on this one. I just think he's just a level above a Balaji Oki. And now to the co-main event, we got, unfortunately, Benoit Saint Denis getting dogged out in front of his Paris home crowd again. Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Ruffi. I called it, and I'm going to say it already. Mauricio Ruffi is going to knock out Benoit Saint Denis in absolutely tremendous fashion. Benoit Saint Denis, he defeated Kai Prepolek by arm triangle last time out, but he was supposed to be able to go against Joel Alvarez, and I think Joel Alvarez was going to be able to put a whooping on Benoit Saint Denis if that matchup was going to be able to conclude. And Mauricio Ruffi so far is undefeated in the UFC, and last time out he had a heel kick KO of the year against Bobby Green. While Benoit Saint Denis has a chance in making things very rough and gritty and nasty and getting into the clinch and trying to be able to wear on Mauricio Ruffi and get things into Benoit Saint Denis' warehouse and mixing in the grappling, getting in the takedowns, and being very versatile with that. That's the only way that I can be able to see realistically how Benoit Saint Denis wins, because if it does stay on the feet, Benoit Saint Denis is very, very slow, defensively very still unresponsible, and there's just way too many chances for Mauricio Ruffy to be able to KO him in absolute grand fashion. He has the counter speed, he has the reaction speed, he has the speed just in general to be able to just put the lights out of Benoit Saint Denis, and that's exactly what I'm expecting to be able to happen. So I got Mauricio Ruffy to be able to pull off a KO victory in the co-main event for the Fighting Nerds as well over Benoit Saint Denis. And now on to the main event, and we have a fight that honestly I do not know who is going to win. I know this is a prediction video. I know this is a breakdown video. I know you're sorry supposed to have your ideas made up. What are you talking about, dude? Roddy, get your shit together. How do you not know who's going to win this one? This one is a very, very hard fight to be able to call. I think this is the hardest fight I've ever tried to be able to predict, whether that be boxing or in the UFC as well. This is a 50-50 fight, bar none. A lot of people are leaning towards Imavov, and understandably so. They are in Paris. It's in his home, that being in France, and he has that home crowd and home energy behind him. He just came off his greatest career win against Israel Adesanya, knocking him out in the second round, and honestly the best win out of both of these fighters, that being Imavov and Barajo. Imavov is on a 4-fight win streak as of right now, beating guys like Delidze, Cannonier, Brendan Allen, and obviously, as I mentioned before, Israel Adesanya. He's been on an absolute tear. Against Delidze, BTA to Roman Delidze. That's what Imavov did. Jared Cannonier, he started to be able to switch the momentum where at first Cannonier looked like he was in control of that matchup, mixing in with some of the grappling and the clinching and on the stand-up. I think he really respected the power of what Cannonier was coming towards his way, but then eventually he started to swing the tide towards him. And then we had a very, very controversial stoppage in that fight where I thought that was egregious that Jason Herzog called that one off against him versus Cannonier. Brendan Allen, Imavov versus Brendan Allen, him showcasing his grappling ability, out-grappling Brendan Allen and just beating him on the feet, wherever it be. Imavov just having the advantage over Brendan Allen, who's a pretty tough out himself as well. And obviously Adesanya being, the name that he is, having that reign as a middleweight champion, beating the names that he's beat so far in the UFC, it was a great win for him. And Barajo is undefeated in the UFC. He's beaten some good names like Arman Pedrosian, Mikhail Lynchachuk, who's now his teammate with the Fighting Nerds, Abus Magomedov, Paul Craig, and last time out when we seen him, he absolutely dominated, even though Cannonier did have his moments every here and there, but he did dominate Jared Cannonier. This one's very hard for me to be able to predict because I do think that in terms of the technique and the skill, I do think that Nasruddin Imavov is more equipped to be able to win this one. But it's not like Kyle Barajo is no slouch on the feet. That entire fight with Jared Cannonier didn't even go to the ground. And Barajo does have the advantage on the ground against Jared Cannonier 100%. But most of the time it was on the feet, and it was very competitive on the feet. But Kyle Barajo was just doing enough to be able to really put it on Jared Cannonier and start whooping on him. And you can say the same thing. While I do think that Barajo is the better grappler and the better wrestler in terms of Imavov has great takedown defense and pretty good grappling himself as well. Imavov to me is more of a striker, more of a kickboxer, Muay Thai type of style, more of a tactician, a lot more technical than a guy like Kyle Barajo, where Barajo is skillful and technical, but not in terms of the same type of level as Imavov. They both carry very good power. And again, it kind of just it evens it out on both sides, man. And really, if you want to be able to go off experience, Imavov has lost before. He's been there and done that against guys like Sean Strickland. He's beat pretty good names before that, like Joaquin Buckley, before Joaquin Buckley actually made it a decision to be able to really go down and hone on his weight to welterweight. Edmund Shabazian, who's a pretty decent name in the middleweight division. I mean, if you want to go experience and if you want to go on top in terms of it just staying on the feet and a Mavov just having the advantage in that one and thinking that Barajo can't be able to get his timing down, won't be able to get any takedowns and think just stay on the feet and a Mavov is just teeing off on Barajo, I can be able to see that. I can also be able to see Barajo mixing in the takedowns, getting some grappling exchanges, really stressing on a Mavov. A Mavov got taken down by Cannonier in this fight and had some issues with them, and also had some issues with Brendan Allen as well, even though he was mostly winning those exchanges on the ground against Brendan Allen. Uh, this one, it's tough, man. It is really, really tough. My first thought off prediction on this one, I was going with a Mavov. The more and more I started to be able to watch tape and really think about things, I started leaning to Barajo. It is in Paris, and a Mavov is a slight, and I mean slight favorite over Barajo on the books. Man, this is really hard. I'm really thinking about this prediction right now. Usually I have my predictions already set in my mind and who I think is going to win and how I think the fight is going to play out. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Kyle Barajo getting the job done. I think he mixes in the takedowns. I think he has top control. I think he has moments where he really stresses out Nasruddin Imavov, where he has his bag taken. While Imavov will have his moments on the feet, I do think that this will be a 48-47 type of decision. This will be very, very close. But I do think while it will be very close, and I do think that some people will think Imavov won, and some people will think that Barajo won, I do think that it will be a clear edge winner, where 3 rounds definitely go Barajo's way and 2 going Imavov's way. It's razor edge. It is razor edge, and I 100% agree and understand as to why Imavov is the favorite and why he more than likely is going to have a lot of other people believing that he is going to be able to win this fight and predicting that he will win this fight. There's some flaws in terms of Imavov where his takedown defense and his grappling is really good. I just think that Barajo just has that edge over him, and I don't think that Imavov has that much of a skill gap in terms of it being on the feet with Barajo, even though he does have a skill gap against him. I do think that he has to be able to worry about the stand-up and worry about the power coming back his way that Barajo does possess, and I just think that Barajo does a lot more in terms of mixing things in, being more active, and being in terms of the presence of getting things done. So I'm going to go with the fighting nerd himself. I'm going to go with Kyle Barajo going into enemy territory in Paris and getting the job done over the slightest edge favorite in a 50-50 matchup against Nasruddin Imavov, which I think will be an absolute banger of a main event. I'm absolutely hoping that it will be. And yeah, like this video. If you obviously like this video, comment your opinions if you disagree with me on anything on this card, especially on the main event. I 100% agree where you're coming from. If you do think that Imavov will be able to pull it off, at first, again, I did think that Imavov is going to be able to pull it off, but now I'm leaning a lot more to Barajo. I can change my mind the next day if I really think about it even more. But right now, just for this video, putting it on paper, putting it out there, I'm having Barajo coming out on top on this one. Make your voices and opinions heard 100%. I'm here to be able to hear that out. And subscribe. If you love this type of content, I'm giving you this type of content consistently because I love you and you love me. And why not continue to love each other mutually over and over in the future more often. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.